And there he is. Will, how are you?
I'm doing all right. It is just starting to snow outside my window. I know you've got potentially some tornadoes coming your way tonight, but it's snowing up here. So
Yeah, so last night, it's funny you brought that up. Last night, enjoying my Easter dinner or whatever, and then you just hear like pumbles on the roof. So I know hail's a thing, but you've never seen hail this big around Central Illinois. Like golf ball size, like almost bigger than a golf ball. And they're just like pummeling cars and stuff. It was wild. But yeah, that was my night last night. So how was your weekend?
oh
Good? No, was no show.
uh, yeah, yeah. You know what? I will say I enjoyed a weekend with no show choir. I finished a book that I had been reading since January,
Okay.
and so it took me over months to finish that book, but it finally took me a no show choir weekend to finish it up. Which you know what? If that's what it is, that's what it is. My car was not damaged by any hail, so that was a plus.
Nice, nice.
Um, oh, we already have a comment saying people were looking out for you last night. Wow.
Yeah, as it should be. I mean, no, it was scary. It was scary, and tonight's supposed to get a little worse. I hear around here, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. We have a comment from the recently revealed admin of al.showchoir.me, Dobbs Durkin, saying we can sleep for real. Dobbs, first of all, congratulations on being revealed as the administrator of Alabama Show Choir memes today. I saw that video. Great way to
Mhm.
self as the admin of that page. But yeah, uh, I, I looked at my brother late on Saturday night, and I'm like, it's incredible what 8 hours of sleep will do to you. I was like, how have I gone so long without realizing what an 8 hour night of sleep can do? Because, uh, yeah. So, you know what? There was no show choir last weekend, but my personal health probably benefited from it.
Yeah, see, my personal health didn't go so well because my Illini got absolutely the doors blown off of them, and thank goodness for Easter the next day because it made me feel a little better about myself. But yeah, hey, we're back. We're back on a good note. I mean, thank goodness for Easter, like I said. Chad, is he being serious? Yeah, he's being serious.
Hey, hey, you know what? Your Illinois Fighting Illini had it in the first half pretty decently. They were right. And then they did something that my Green Bay Phoenix are apt to do, and they just tossed the game in the second half.
It was a
So
30-0 run, Will. 30-0. Have you ever heard of a 30-0 run?
yeah, yes. Well, I will say at least your 30-0 run came at the hands of UConn and not Robert Morris, because that happened to me last year. So
Yeah, you got
um,
to in the country. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it there's that. uh, we still have plenty of our usual show choir drama. We still have plenty of comments on the Wheaton Warrenville South thread going around. Uh,
Always.
and we don't usually deal in that, but like folks, at this point you just got to give it up. Like if you know what's going on, you know what went on, and there's no more reason to talk about it. And if you don't know what went on, and you're still thinking that this competition was scored by raw points, you just drop it because you clearly just don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. There's a line that goes, "There's nothing more American than barging into some place where you weren't invited and complaining about what was already there." And like, it's just what these people are doing. It's like, but anyways, so chat, I am being serious right now. This is your daily reminder to not be an idiot online and not use people of baseless things. With that being said, Ethan, I guess we can officially start the show now. This is Show Choir Nation. On that note, this is Show Choir Nation, the flagship podcast of the Homeroom Show Choir Podcast Network. I am your host, William. If you're watching this, up on top of me is my co-host, Ethan. If you've been listening to this, you know who Ethan is for a while. But Ethan, we've talked about the weather. Hopefully, if either one of us get knocked offline, just wait for us to say that we're safe. Or for Ethan, I guess. We've talked about the Easter already. We've talked about the drama. But let's talk about something much more positive, something that's starting today for the Homeroom Show Choir crew, and that is Show Choir Madness. So, for the people who don't know what Show Choir Madness is at all, why don't you give the people a little bit of an explainer?
So it's kind of funny because it's kind of how this whole thing just started, like our whole site and our whole page. So literally a month before the whole world shut down, I created Barstool Show Choir, which, if you didn't know by now, is us. We came and we rebranded this summer, and now we're homeroom. But our humble beginnings were Barstool, and I didn't know what I was really doing with the account. I just made it on a whim because sometimes you just do that. And then maybe a month later, a few weeks later, the whole world shut down, and many show choir seasons ended. Um, Personally, I know many upperclassmen who were affected, many seniors who didn't get to finish their school years. Um, so I kind of created this thing with, well, let me backtrack for a second. So March Madness was also canceled that year as well. So I was kind of having withdrawals of not having March Madness. And I was like, you know what? No March Madness, no show choir. Let's just put it together in my own little way, and let's see if we can go somewhere. And that's basically how we got our whole following when we started doing show choir madness. And so many people fell in love with it. It's something I want to do every single year. It was something that filled a void, especially because all the big competitions were wiped out. So a bunch of people didn't even get to start their seasons. I know California maybe got one in, maybe none. Um, so it was kind of a cool way to involve every single group. And back then, I was just picking choirs left and right. I was like, they have a good following. I think they have a lot of people online. Oh, let's put them here. They had a good year, and like I didn't know anything. Um, but to see where it came from 64 choirs to 68 choirs, because we had the playing games, which are today. If you haven't, go vote. Um, it's surreal that we're in this fifth year and people still enjoy it. And as long as people still enjoy it, we'll still put it on for them.
Yeah, we do have a comment in the chat from at Circle City Show Choir that says so many show choir pages don't get this far. And that's something that I do want to give you your flowers for, because a lot of show choir pages, they either, number one, stop at the point of, well, I created a Twitter account. I guess these days it's now Instagram accounts. Or number two, they would have just done it in 2020, and then would have been a nice little one and done thing. But here we are, we're in year number 5 of this, and I don't think that either of us have the perspective to say if this is one of the like longest running show choir gigs, I guess,
Maybe.
promotion. I struggle to find an accurate word to describe it. I know some of the predictions accounts and some of the confessions accounts in the good
Oh,
old days,
oh don't.
they were around for a long time. And it's not on the show sheet today to discuss how today's show choir students simply would have folded under the weight of the old predictions and confessions accounts. That'll be a topic for another day. But Ethan, I just do want to shout you out, because your drive, you've been the main force behind Madness for all these years, and if you look at the cumulative number of votes cast, I don't have that number, but it's got to be a lot. And so clearly, it's provided a lot of entertainment. Tons of show choir fans. We've seen some entire schools rally around their choirs in this, and so it really does produce tangible effects for the choirs, and we're really happy to be able to provide that. So the next question that I had, I guess you already answered, which was how did Matt start? And so before we kind of go full circle and get around to what we're doing today, I guess the next question is going to be how do you determine the groups that qualify for Show Choir Madness?
So when I first started the account, like I said, I just picked them out of thin air and off showchoir.com, and I was like, they're a big group, put them in there. Today, it's a little more civilized and a little more fair than how I used to do it. Now we kind of go off our rankings. So if you competed at least 3 times, however, there are some automatic bids that we give some groups. For example, we feel obligated to give the Cali groups a chance because, of course, they haven't competed at 3 competitions yet. So we have.
Has, but Burroughs has, yeah, they
Yes,
I
Burrow
believe
has,
Bonita
and
Vista,
Burbank,
and then
Los Al has.
yeah,
I was the big three.
yep.
Just say that because, yeah, we usually give them automatic bids, but besides that, we kind of go down our rankings list on our large mixed. So we go down the list and we see what groups gave us who have a big following, have big communities, schools who had maybe one of their best years ever if they're in the top 60 or 70 or so. If they have a year that historically is one of the best ever. We want to put them in there because they deserve it, clearly. Um, but we just kind of go down the order of the rankings, and where groups fall is groups fall. And that's kind of like another thing I want to add on to this is how groups qualify. Um, it's kind of interesting because seeds in this thing don't matter at all. If you've been following us for a while now, seeds in this thing do not matter at all. Millard North, for example, I love Millard North so much for this. It's so funny. Somehow they always get stuck in the playing game the past like 3 years or so. And they always make the Elite Eight, Final Fours. It's incredible what the community of Millard does. And um, Millard West won it last year, so that's just a testament to that community. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see how like states and regions come together and they form this bond over time. Of course, I'm like, let's root for each other, let's vote for each other, and it's like how this thing gets shared is crazy between the parents and the friend groups and group chats. It's crazy, but yeah, groups who get in are usually on our rankings. Besides the ones we feel deserve a shot who haven't competed 3 times. So that's how we qualify groups.
Something that you said that I really wanted to point out is kind of how states or regions kind of bundle around this and kind of show their collective support because uh, at least in my personal experience, in high school, you generally kind of have a love-hate relationship with the choirs that are really close to you, or with the choir that you may see a lot. You know, for example, I competed 5 times my senior year of high school, and we saw one group at every single one of our competitions, right? And they beat us every single time. And they were great kids. I was friends with a lot of them, but at a certain point, I was just kind of like, oh man, like, could we go one competition without seeing this group? But then in something like this, you turn it around and you're like, well, you know, if I'm Millard West and I see Millard North a lot, but Millard North today is going up against Jackson Academy, which is a group that I may have never heard of from Mississippi. You know, I may as well vote for Millard North. And so I think that is something we unity in show choir is a term that I think gets thrown around a lot and doesn't mean a lot these days. But and not to sound boastful or bragging or anything like that, but I think this is something that actually has the power to inspire some unity, and I think it's also something that I think it's not the intended effect of it, but it is something that works towards a more educated show choir public because with homeroom. We we have content from all these different areas of the country, right? But if you're scrolling down our homepage or our blog page, our main feed page or whatever, you have no obligation to click on articles from a part of the country that you may have never heard of or anything like that. And we do our national rankings. In the national rankings, they have choirs from all over the country, but it's kind of information overload. We dump 300 groups on there, and we're like, here you go, sort it out. But something like this where it's very palatable matchups. You know, if I'm a fan of let's say Huntington North is in one of the play-in matchups today, and if I'm a fan of Huntington North and I look and I see, oh, they're matched up against the Keller Blue Lights, which is a group from Texas. And I may have never heard of Keller before. I'm actually a big Keller fan. I'm an OG Keller fan back from when they were called Tribe. So that's not true. I love my Keller people, if there are any of them watching. But you know, hypothetically, I may not know who Keller is. And so just having one group where I say, oh, that's who the group I like is matched up against, I may be inclined to do some more research about them and find out that, hey, they won 2 competitions this year. They were a really stellar group. They were probably one of the top 3 groups in Texas this year. And so I think for me personally, while the goal is to, you know, be fun and everything like that, I think it is a little bit informative as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I think you have a really good point there with how like communities and regions come together. I, I throughout the years, of course, there's so many different show choir pages that come about. Some that are for specific regions, and they always were like, "Hey, here we go. Let's vote for the New England groups here." You know, everyone's pushing it out and all sharing among each other. I remember I was in the most random group chat, story for another time. But the basis of this story is I was in this group chat and it was like, "Hey, like a bunch of kids from Illinois, like let's vote for Troy. Like we gotta vote for Troy." That link could sit out. And I'm telling you, not one person in that group chat was from Troy. And it had like 50 some people in it. And it kind of felt like we were just gathering behind them and pushing them forward a little bit, try to give them a little nudge. It's also kind of cool. You and I both touched on it. It's like how much the school gets involved. Because I know it's different across the whole country. in terms of how involved your school is with your show choir. And I know in some schools it's a lot, in some schools it's not as much. But then with this, it's like this gets like called on like the intercom at schools. I've heard like Carmel one year, they're of course one of the biggest high schools in the country. Like they had basically like their football coach, their principal, their AD, superintendent, they're all sharing it all over the place, and they got like 5,000 votes in the span of like it felt like an hour, and it was just insane. And some of these poll numbers that pop up just wow me because I'm like, there's no way that this little thing that we made up in 2020 is gone to a point where it rallies whole communities and whole regions and choirs in general. So I'm super excited that this started up. Don't just for fun, I want to read off our past winners because there's only so much we can do for them besides give them their bragging rights.
Sure.
So I feel like obligated to give them this little time now that we have a podcast. So 2020 was Naperville North Entourage. They won the inaugural. Show Choir Madness, Loveland by Request won in 21. And then we had Carmel win it in 22. And then Millard West won it last year over Grenada. Yeah. And if you want to see all that other information, we have history on our past Final Fours. That's on our informative blog post on Show Choir Madness. So please go check that out. And also for fun, just really fast, just a little timestamp. This is where we currently are at in our first 4 voting. So if you haven't, go vote while you can. It ends tomorrow at noon. So Roncalli is up right now, 78% over West Jones. So that's a good matchup. We have Huntington North over Keller Blue Lights right now at 73% compared to 24. We have Jackson Academy barely edging out Millard North, which I just gave Millard North so much praise. People need to get on this poll. What are we doing, Millard North? No, I'm kidding. Jackson Academy, of course, has had amazing years so far, or in general. So it's not surprising. Plus, the South totally rallying behind them as well. And then Waltham edging out Chesterton, 64-36. So if you haven't, go vote on our first 4 polls. And I believe we start Wednesday on the actual bracket. So that's the busiest day of the year for our site. Just pages, everything. It's going to be insane.
So first of all, you said that Huntington North was up 73-24 on Keller. That adds up to 97.
73-24, 27. So
now know that in addition to not taking French in high school, Ethan must have not taken math in high school.
I'm illiterate
either. So I think this begs the question: what do they actually teach the kids at Mount Zion High School? Regardless of that, Ethan also just admitted to poll manipulation. He literally just said he was in a group chat for a poll that he created, and
I didn't vote. I don't vote. I just happen to be in the group chat. I just happen to be in the group chat. What? I don't vote on the polls, I promise.
So we got swings in the chat saying they teach show choir. Hey, if there's one thing to teach at your school, show choir is probably the thing to be teaching your kids. Yeah. So that's phenomenal. One thing that I did want to touch on, Ethan, is that you said that this Barstool just started out as a Twitter page before it even was a website. And Show Choir Madness has been a staple on the site formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, for a while. But website voting is the way to go this year. I guess why did that happen?
So last year we actually kind of had, I guess, some drama or some difficulties around it because last year we saw some certain numbers pop up, like large poll numbers pop up in very quick amounts of time. So. And this just caused a lot of people saying, oh, there's bots voting. And you know what? I can't say there are or they're not. I can't watch these polls 24/7 on Twitter. And so just to make it fair, we looked at so many different avenues to take our voting so we can kind of get rid of the whole, hey, they're cheating, because it kind of took away from the whole purpose of why we do Show Choir Madness. And we wanted to get back to why supporting groups, no matter if you're going up against a whole different community, it doesn't really matter because whoever wins, wins. And it's all just celebrating everyone. So we wanted to get back to that. And so we found the best way to do it was to do it through our own website, which is super cool because every day you find new features on our site that you never knew were there. So this is kind of really cool that we can implement or embed our own polls. I'm pretty sure on Wednesday it's gonna crash with all those polls going. But I think it's gonna be more efficient than Twitter. It might not be as easy to share and get more votes, but I think either way the community will get that link out.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to mention that disregarding anything that may have happened last year, this season we did expand to an Instagram presence as well, and our Instagram following actually took off very, very quickly. I would say probably quicker than the Twitter following did in the early days of the page. And so I think we're closing in on 3,500 followers on Instagram right now, and so we thought, we could do like one set of polls on Twitter and one set of polls on Instagram, and then combine the results. But that, number one, it's a lot of work on our end. Number two, I that's not really super transparent to people who don't use one platform or the other, right? If I'm an Instagram user and I see that Huntington North is up 54-46 on Keller, but then if I'm a Twitter user and I see that Keller is up 60-40 on Huntington North, then somebody's going to have the wrong idea of what happened at the end of the poll. And so, while Ethan, you are right, clicking a link to a website is perhaps not the easiest thing to do. We thought that it was ultimately the fairest way to do it for a number of reasons. I think the other thing that really sticks out to me about the website voting is simply just the ease of voting. No longer is it do you have to like click on each individual tweet to vote on each matchup. All of the matchups for each round are just going to be on one webpage. And so with the Play in one right now, you can literally just scroll down. You can click your choice for matchup number 1, matchup number 2, matchup number 3, matchup number 4, and then you're done. And if you know who you want to vote for in each of these 4 matchups, you're done voting in 10 seconds. And so then that it's super easy on a user experience end of things too. I guess kind of wrapping up this segment, you kind of mentioned it earlier. We have a really big prize coming for the winner of Show Choir Madness this year. Do you care to tell the people what the overall prize for winning Show Choir Madness is, or is that still a secret?
It's kind of funny. I'll tell them the prize. I'll tell them the prize. So it's kind of funny. It's like when I started this thing, I was like, well, there has to be something. There has to be something that marks who wins this thing because there's so many choirs, so many communities gunning for it. And I was like, they have to have something. And my ultimate prize I gave out was I would make a crappy graphic on Snapchat and I would pin it on the Twitter page, and it would be there up for the whole year. That was literally that was literally our prize. But I don't know. We'll figure something out for them. I'll make another graphic. Basically, it's for bragging rights. Like anything is in high school, you just want to go get it. You'd be like, hey, we won this. Maybe in the future, I don't know. Maybe if we're not broke college students, we can actually, maybe send out a plaque, not a plaque or something. I don't know, award certificate. I don't know. Well, that's something for the future. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Ethan's wearing his Illini hat. I got my UW Green Bay polo on. Uh, Neither of our bank accounts are looking very spectacular
yeah.
right now, but that's okay. We do have a question from the chat that is, how long will voting be open for each poll? So the answer to that question is 24 hours. So these website polls will publish at 1 Eastern, Central, 10 Pacific on the voting days, and the voting days will be staggered pretty much every other
Mhm.
day, because they'll run from midday one day to midday the next day. So they'll run about 24 hours on, 24 hours off, skipping competition Saturdays because we don't want to detract from that. And so ultimately, we will be crowning a winner in the middle of April, just about, because you have this round, and then you have 64 group round, 32, 16, 8, 4, and then 2, and then you crown a champion. So voting will be open for 24 hours, and yeah, you have that number of time to get your votes in and to tell people to get their votes in. I will say clearly we already have people uh, getting the word out, because just loosely looking at the current poll numbers right now, we have several we have like about the first couple polls are sitting right around 330 votes, and then the third poll is at about 400 votes. And then the fourth poll is already over 500 votes. So clearly there are and like uh, Chesterton with 204. Chesterton would be pretty much winning the third poll right now. but yet they're down 64% to 36%. And so that's just the proof of what you can do if you get the word out. By no means can we guarantee you victory by any stretch of the imagination. Well, we can for the right amount of money. But just for legal reasons, it's a joke. Yeah, so don't underestimate, like Ethan said, the power of 50-person group chats and things like that. I guess that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about Madness wise. Are there any final thoughts you have about Show Choir Madness?
No, I'm just really excited to get it going again because I mean we had talks after last year. We are kind of like, is it worth still doing? And it was like we came to the conclusion that it is. Like we need to keep this thing going because it brings more good than bad. And I feel like this year with it being on our site, more people, of course, being on our site, like I just said, I think it's gonna be better overall for Show Choir Madness. And plus, while you're there, of course, read some of these articles we're dropping. We're dropping some really good articles right now, so please go check those out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing is that we still have multiple big show choir circuits going. We still have the New England circuit going. They've got Waltham coming up, which we'll talk about in just a second. We've got California still going. We've got Oklahoma still going. We've got Colorado still going, although that's typically not considered a major circuit, quote unquote. We still have plenty of stuff going on, and so like Ethan said, when you're on the site, do feel free to read what our talented writers are doing as well. We've also got a lot of late season content slash postseason content coming out for some of our circuits that wrap up a little bit earlier in the year. I mean, Iowa has been under wraps for pretty much a month now, with the exception of a couple late West Iowa competitions. And it's crazy to think just kind of just kind of the variability between all that. But yeah, like I mean, I guess I just kind of ran out of words there. That's what happens when we record on Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all we have to say about Madness. We'll roll on to the show choir that actually is happening this weekend. So we have the Maine State Show Choir Festival happening, and this one does not have any information slash lineups posted or on the internet right now. But Maine is an event with a pretty rich history. This event goes back at least 30 plus years, and we've talked about circuits that have been hit pretty hard by the pandemic. Maine is definitely one of those circuits. They don't have any other competitions besides the state festival, and so attendance has definitely dropped these past couple of years. I did read an article by a local newspaper, I believe just at the beginning of last month, talking about how the show choirs that remain are still great. There are just less of them around. I think it's definitely still something that is worth keeping your eye on Saturday, just in case any information come up. But I do have one question for Ethan about this, and that question is, Ethan, when was the last time you competed in the Maine State Show Choir Festival?
You're so funny, Will. You're so funny. You're so goofy. I know it's April. It's maybe one of the first laughs I had on this April Fool's Day. So, um, yeah, because all the ones like all the April Fool's jokes now are kind of just they know it's coming. So you always keep me on my toes, and I won't keep you on your toes here because you know I have it. I've never been to the state of Maine. I've never. Um, I barely even heard of this competition. I've seen it a few times before. I don't know who the regulars are, but yeah, I've never been to the Maine State Show Choir Festival.
Have you ever been to Maine? Period.
No, no,
No.
no, never been to Maine. That's one place I do want to go to. I think it's really pretty up there, from what I
Yeah,
heard.
my parents honeymooned there. A beautiful, beautiful place. So we'll move on to a competition that hopefully you have heard about before, and that is the Show Choir Canada Championships. This is a competition that we had a little bit of a lively conversation about last episode with the Can-Am Championships that went on about 10 years ago. So the lineup for this one is as follows. We've got Unionville Synergy from Ontario, Fame School of Performing Arts, also from Ontario, Pickering Euphonics, also from Ontario, the Strike It Up Vocal Motion from New York, Beaconsfield Crescendo from Ontario, St. George's G Major from Quebec, the Music Academy of Western New York Shout, the All Saints Flair from Ontario, and the Music Academy of Western New York Roar. So, Ethan, do you recognize any of the names on this list?
One, I only know one, which I mean that's not a bad thing because I love learning new stuff. Um, like one of the things I learned because I had to do research on this because of course I don't know much about my friends from up north. I don't know much about their show choir, but I did some research and the group that is hosting this year has won the past like 7 years or something like that. I'm probably over exaggerating, but I had to look it up. I don't even want to say the name because you'll gaslight me on it for every show after it. I'm not even gonna try. So, Splash, I'll just say their group name. Their Splash is hosting this year, and I wrote some stats down. Since 2018, they're 4-4 in wins, so they're undefeated since 2018. They have two sweeps and one took over Burbank, which what like people haven't even heard of this group before. I barely heard of this group before. Um, last time Splash didn't win a championship was in 2017 when they got second place with best vocals against Troy Buchanan. So I never heard of this group before until I started digging because I mean I'm not a show choir historian like Will himself, so I personally have to like go back and look at stuff. But to see they beat like Burbank and they lost to Troy Buchanan, but they had vocals, it's like, is this one of the oh my gosh, why can't I get my words out today? It's rough over here, Will. It's rough. But basically, what I'm trying to say is this group like the great ghost of the past 4 or 5 years, like a group that competition wise doesn't go too much, but they've steadily won and beat, of course, like big groups.
Yeah. Well, I think Etobicoke is they're a very interesting group. And actually, they went down to Fame Chicago in 2019. RIP Fame Chicago. Also RIP the Fame National Finals back when they happened in Chicago. Some of those comps were bangers. But they came down to Fame Chicago in 2019, and that was actually the warm-up competition for them for Show Choir Canada, because Show Choir Canada is always the second weekend of April, and Fame Chicago was the last weekend of March that year, and they were actually second at Fame Chicago. They took second to Jackson Prep. They had best choreography, and Green Bay East third, and Crete Monet was fourth of that competition, who I think just actually joined the chat. So that was
That's kind of ironic.
a
Yeah.
very providential join of the chat by the Crete Monet Show Choir account. But anyways, I actually talked to a girl from Green Bay East because I was like, hey, how is that Canadian school? And she's like, she's like, they were really, really good. Super, super tight show and things like that. She's like, but they didn't use a band. They used tracks.
Okay. And wait. So we're saying Tracks beat Burbank?
I that was, I don't think that was the same year.
Okay.
Uh, I Let me double check. Yeah, that was not the year that Burbank was there. So I only know that they were using. I can only confirm, I guess, that they
Mhm.
were using tracks for that year. I don't know if it's unreasonable to, but I think also, like, if it's the expectation to use tracks up there, the band might just not even be on the sheet at all because nobody does it, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, but back on the competition itself, besides the host group, you had to shout them out because we won't ever again for the rest of the year. So I had to get that in, give them their props. Um, so like I said, I had to do some research looking into this competition, looking to see who's going. So Unionville, I want to say Uniondale so bad or whatever it is, but Unionville is a group in Canada that seems to be on the rise lately. They at this competition have gotten sixth to fourth place finishes back in like 2015, 16. And recently, the past 2 years, they're getting podium placements of second and third. And I looked it up. They are benefiting the most, I think, from Splash not competing this year. They are 0-8 against Splash all the time. So I think that's going to be a good thing that they're hosting. And Unionville, oh my goodness, Unionville has a chance to finally break through here and win at this competition. However, the one group I do know about that we talked about earlier was Western New York Shout. We talked about them when they were at the Little Rumble. The whole state of New York is currently undefeated in the divisions. I don't know if that's going to happen here, but they got first against Lemeister and I forgot the other group at Little Rumble, but
Dartmouth.
Dartmouth, thank you. And those are some solid tier two groups in over there. So I think they're the ultimate wild card in this. However, if you wanted me to give you predictions on a comp I know nothing about, I will because this is what we do. I'm gonna give you only three groups, and I don't know if these are based on division or not. I'm just going on what I see. I'm going Unionville with the GC, the first GC at Show Choir Canada. I'm gonna go that I personally know of, and I'm gonna go Shout in second, and I'm gonna go St. George in third, and that's just how far I'm gonna go. Because after that, I know nothing.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you bring up St. George there because back before Etobicoke was the dynasty in Canada, St. George was actually a force to be reckoned with. They had wins at this event in 2015 and 2016, and granted that's a long time ago, but I think it's still worth noting. And in terms of New York going undefeated in division, there are actually 3 New York groups at this competition. There are 9 groups total. And only 6 of them are Canadian, which is kind of hilarious that 1/3 of the total groups attending this competition are from New York. But we do have the overall debut of the Strike It Up Artistic Center Vocal Motion. This is out of the Rochester area in upstate New York, so a bit farther east than Buffalo, but still definitely in that upstate region. And so it's very interesting to now see that New York has 3 competitive show choir programs this year, along with Uniondale and
Rookie.
Western New York. So it is interesting. Are we going to see a renaissance of New York show choir? Who knows? But is this the start of something? I don't know. Yeah, I think with Splash out of it, it does really open it up. The thing with Show Choir Canada is that they're kind of light on information in the lead up to the event, is what I've learned these past couple of years, and they just kind of chuck it out and say, "Hey, here's coming. See him on stage at this time," and then at the awards ceremony, they'll be like, "So we have 9 choirs and 4 divisions today, which equates out to 2 1/4 choirs per division," and and then it'll end up looking like a California competition. I guarantee it. But it is what it is, and hey, whoever wins this is the Canadian national champion for the year, even if they're from New York. So good luck to everybody who is vying for a national title, and it's a true national title because there are no other competitions in Canada.
Yeah.
It's not like Show Choir Nationals here where you can be like, well, the winner of Show Choir Nationals and the winner of Wheaton Warrenville South, we're the same group this year, but that's besides the point. I should really, face off to see who's the real national champion. It doesn't exist in Canada, so it is truly as much of a winner-take-all event as you can get in show choir. So another competition, we're going from competitions that Ethan is not familiar with at all, moving steadily towards the spectrum of competitions Ethan is very familiar with. We've got a competition that Ethan is very familiar with here, and that is the Waltham Eastern Show Choir Festival. Ethan, before I even read off the lineup, when was the last time you competed at the Waltham Eastern Show Choir Festival?
0. I've never competed at Waltham. I competed at Andover.
Ah,
So I know you're just, oh man.
you got
There's
me.
only so many competitions up in the Northeast, and you pick or choose, man. Come on.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. And here's the thing: I actually was under the impression that you competed at Andover, or not at Andover, at Waltham. I legitimately thought that I was setting everyone up to be like, oh yeah, I went there in 2018 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, okay. So anyways,
Would
I
love to though.
Okay, so we'll just jump the show sheet into oblivion. So the large mixed division here, we've got the Lowell Sound Impressions, Mount Zion Swing Stations, Shepherd Hill Fantasy, Somerset Berkeley Electrify, and Tatasqua Encore. In the small mixed division, Boston Latin Pizzazz, Dartmouth by Dynamics, Leominster Ignition, Natick Western Singers, and Oliver Ames Panache. And in the single gender division, Lowell Sound Stations, Mount Zion La Femme, Mount Zion, you've got Male, Shepherd Hill Illusion, Somerset Berkeley Amplified, and Tatasqua Applause. Just one note right off the bat here. This has one of the most even division splits I've ever seen at a competition. There are 16 groups, and they're divided 5, 5, and 6. So in terms of division parity, it is very diverse in terms of the divisions and fields that will take the stage on Saturday. So Ethan, I guess we'll start with large mixed. What stands out to you from this lineup? And I already know what you're going to say, but I have to ask you that question.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird because we have no winners from the Northeast here. It's kind of in that I'm pretty sure. I think Shepherd Hill doesn't have a win this year. Lowell doesn't have a win this year. Somerset Berkeley doesn't have a win this year. And Tantascwa does not have a win this year. Despite, I think they've all had strong seasons this season. This season's the season, yes. Um, but yeah, they've just been in the middle of the pack so far this season. I'm just gonna say season every time. My brain is it's Monday. I'm so sorry. I'm trying.
Better next week, we promise.
Yes, it will be. Um, but if they're all in the middle of the pack like they have been and haven't got a win this season, they are going to be gunning for a win. Clearly, I mean, I'm guessing this is the end of the road for all majority of these choirs, or maybe all these
All of
choirs.
them, yeah.
Yeah, so all these people are going to be gunning up for a win, and you want the Northeast to protect their home turf. Um, and then I have to talk about Mount Zion. Mount Zion's had a very competitive season in the Midwest, and they have done a great job for what it's worth. Um, the only competition that they didn't place, probably where they really wanted to, was Wheaton, where a bunch of groups didn't place. So um, it just is what it is. They ran the gauntlet of the Midwest, and I think this is theirs to have. The last time they came here, or came to the Northeast, was 2019. Will at Andover, and we placed third, over or over Daniel Hand, lost to Waltham and who Fairfield. Yeah, so that was a stunner comp. But I think if Mount Zion can keep their composure, because there's one thing about Mount Zion end of the year shows, they're the most emotional shows of all time. I don't know if that's the same everywhere. Like you'll see tears, you'll see all this, but yeah, I think if Mount Zion can keep their composure, I think this is theirs to have, unless they have jet lag, of course. So I'm gonna go Mount Zion with best vocals, best visuals, and a gold medal. Shout out gold medals. I love gold medals. Shepherd Hill, I have them in second. Tantascwa, I have them in third. Somerset after that, and Lowell following. That's how I have that division rounding out.
Yeah, I rarely am I at a loss for words, but I think you summed up what would have been my thoughts on the large mixed division very, very well. Ultimately, we have a bunch of groups from the Northeast this year who have shuffled in somewhere behind the combination of Daniel and Waltham and South Windsor. And when at a lot of competitions you have at least two of those three groups taking up the top two spots, then you're looking at the rest of these choirs at the top placing third and potentially even going down to like sixth to eighth. And so when you kind of throw a bunch of those choirs into a pot and say, all right, well, none of those three choirs are there. Mount Zion is there, but that's only one group. Ultimately, it's an opportunity for whoever wants it the most. Shepherd Hill is the one that I think the most people know about, has the most name recognition, has the best legacy, all of that. They're a much smaller group post COVID than they were before COVID. Something that we haven't talked about a lot on this podcast is how the demographic cliff in the Northeast is very real, and how a lot of schools in the Northeast are simply dealing with like probably like 30%, if not more, less students than they were 5 to 10 years ago. And so that's been a real obstacle for a lot of these groups to overcome. Shepherd Hill, I think, is one of those groups that they had membership in the mid 50s beforehand, and they're scratching 30 now, maybe. But ultimately, they have a very moving show this year about a community member who recently passed and who was a staple of the New England show choir community. And they have gotten better throughout the season. I think they started the season a little bit shakily, but they did really well right before the Easter break here. They were third at Andover, or at Bishop Hendricken, I do believe. Okay, we have a comment. Lowell actually doubled in size from last year to this year, so that's good. That we have some groups that are getting better. We love our chat comments because I've never competed in New England. Ethan has. We have another comment. Shepherd Hill is a wild card. Definitely can see them going leaps and bounds with cleaning their show these past 2 weeks. And Shepherd Hill is a group that was already going leaps and bounds before these past 2 weeks. And the thing about cleaning the show over these weeks, though, is that everybody's cleaning the show over those 2 weeks. And so obviously some people clean more than others, but I would say hopefully we're seeing a bunch of top tier New England show choir groups going at it at this competition. Looking at these small mixed divisions, we have Boston Latin, Dartmouth, Leominster, and Natick, and also Oliver Ames. So, Ethan, do you remember talking about these groups earlier this
Yeah,
season?
I do. Um, literally like 5 minutes ago or whatever it was, 10 minutes ago. Their
There
names
we
were
go.
brought
Pass the
up. So
test.
yes. Um, but the thing is, though, is like I don't even want to make a prediction on it because I feel like all these groups are very talented. I know Dartmouth and Leo Meister, as well as all of our aims are big three groups. I don't know much about Boston Latin or Pizzazz or Nanick West, but besides those two, I know those big three pretty well, and I'm gonna guess that those big three are gonna be the top three. Um, if I had to make a guess, I'm gonna go uh, Leo Meister, Dartmouth, and I'm gonna go Oliver Ames for my three.
All right. Well,
Is that very original? No, that's literally.
I am actually I'm going to vehemently disagree with you here. I think that
I
you
just
just
don't know ball. Is that
completely
what you're saying? I don't.
you
I don't.
dismissed Natick completely out of hand, and you are going to live to regret that next week. Natick has lost a combined one competition in their entire existence in small mixed. They have won 5 out of the 6 times they have ever competed, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know very much about them. I don't think they'll be in the top 3. This is a group that has been a Tory Brindis group from the start.
How old are they?
Sister directs it.
Oh my
So
goodness! I'm first. Wait, I'm
so
looking
so
at it now.
yeah. Yeah, so
My
Tory
bad.
sister Kate directs the group, and so they've been a Tory Brindis group from the beginning. They were going to debut in 2021, but the pandemic canceled that, and then they debuted in 2022. I mean, they've been setting small mix on fire. I've never watched a video of one of their shows. I hope there's one out there. But I would absolutely take Natick for the win in this small mix division. And then after that, I don't know. You kind of have a lot of groups. Oliver Ames used to be a large mixed group. They've kind of fallen off the map a little bit here. I think they've undergone some leadership changes and things like that. Leo Minster and Dartmouth are two very young programs as well, also post pandemic. And then Boston Latin, I think, is coming back for the first time in a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years at Waltham here. So to me, Natick is actually the only one that I was super duper familiar with, and they actually went up from 2 competitions to 3 this season. So that was another thing for me. They debuted in February, which was the first time they'd ever done that. I guess we will. Adam, when Adam comes back next week, Adam can be the arbiter of our small mix disagreements, and we can go from there.
Well, I'm just gonna say right now, I don't know ball. I just completely just overlooked them. I just haven't looked at their schedule this season. I just took a look at their one competition before this, and they lost to Scranton, who's maybe one of the best tier two groups in the nation. And I saw that judges list, and I can't disagree with those judges. Um, yeah, I kind of feel stupid, but I guess I just have to stick to my guns on it. So come back next week where I just feel stupid like I am right now.
Well, all right. We'll wipe the slate. Go to the single gender division. This is the biggest division at the competition. We've got 6 groups in this division: Lowell, Mount Zion times 2, Shepherd Hill, Somerset, Berkeley, and Tosqua. Who do you see going where?
I think LaFems is going to take GC here. They had a really strong showing at Wheaton, and they took best choreography away from some very talented groups who have had some very good seasons. So I think I'm going to give them the top spot because I think their vocals might be in jeopardy compared to maybe like a Shepherd Hill, who I know can sing very well. But I think Mount Zion's choreography and show design will hold them off. I think so. It's going to go Mount Zion, I think, Shepherd Hill. I'm going to go Lowell, and I think Mount Zion is going to be in the 4 spot. You've got Mail because them going last, I think they're going last. I think with them going last, that they're going to jump the other two Northeast groups.
All right. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with a show that made the single gender finals at Wheaton Warrenville South, because that was a pretty elite gathering of groups, both on the mixed side and the single gender side, and being able to make finals. And they were originally in finals. They weren't a quote unquote late ad because played. They were in the finals. They just didn't run the scoring system right. and that's why they weren't initially announced. So they fair and square earned their way into those single gender finals. So I think it's very hard to argue with that as well. I would say Hill as well is another group that I would be on the lookout for. I don't think you can kick out You've Got Mail from this conversation either. I think at the very least, You've Got Mail is in for at least one judges award, maybe two, maybe even three. I don't know if you're even allowed to give three judges awards to the same show in New England, but I would say that You've Got Mail and their Bachelor show this year is definitely going to be racking up the judges awards. And then after that, we've kind of got Lowell, Somerset, Berkeley, and Tatosqua, and I think it's kind of pick and choose from there. But yeah, I think also sidetrack. As somebody who's never competed in New England, one of the funniest things to me is going back through these results the day after and being like, I can only imagine what some of these judges awards are referring to, because they'll be like judges award in parentheses most creative instrumentalist in the choir or something like that, and I'm like, I don't have the time to follow up on that, but it seems like a heck of a story. So, Ethan, did you ever get any judges awards performing in New England, and how was the feeling if you did?
Um, so going into this competition, we didn't know anything besides the groups who were there. Like we just know, okay, we're going up against these groups. Here's these shows. We didn't really know how these competitions were ran, and I guess we didn't do our due diligence and look into it. But then when they started announcing some of these awards, so how it went from when I believe, I mean, it was so long ago, but so how it went was they announce your group, they come out on stage, they stand there, and it was like they get the best, they get the best dressed band award, and we were like, what, like what? And then they're like, they had the best death drop or something crazy because I think that was an award given out this year, and we're which was I think Waltham got that one, which is a great one by the way. Um, and then we're like, oh my goodness, what are they gonna give us? Like we kind of got scared. We were kind of like, what are they, like? What could they possibly give us? And that year, Mount Zion had a sock change, so we changed socks. So we went from I'm trying to remember. We went from no show black socks, or no, we went to tall white socks to, um, or black socks, and we went to tall pink highlighter socks, and that was the award they wanted to give us was knock your socks off award, and we're like, let's go, let's go, and then I think Fairfield got out of this world award. Um, Daniel Hand definitely got the bicycle song that they did for the Stranger Things show definitely got an award. I'm pretty sure, which that show was amazing. I haven't seen that one. One of my favorites from the Northeast, 2019 Daniel Hand. Go watch that. Yeah, they just kept going down the list, and we're like, every group is going to get 5 awards. It just this is what it is. And then they're like gold medals, silver medals, and we're like, oh my gosh, are we like Olympians? Are we, like
Yeah.
what does this mean? We have no clue. But when it was all said and done, we get back to the home and we just start. We didn't win, but it kind of didn't matter if we won or lost. It was more like we were just happy to be there. But we celebrated that gold medal like no one's business. Like we just won Wheaton Warrenville South this year or nationals. So even though in the Northeast it's just a common occurrence at every competition, that gold medal was our gold medal.
Yeah, I will say I once did a sock change in my show choir performance, but I didn't even ask my director about that. She was just like, and just like for the second costume, like have a pair of socks on. And so I'm like, all right, I'm signed up to go to the University of Minnesota next year. Let's slap some Minnesota socks on these babies and roll. Uh, and and of course that was in like a tropical down shirt and baby blue shorts, and I don't ever need to wear that combo again. But yeah, that was I'm glad to see that someone is appreciating the art of socks and show choir.
Hey, you got to. I mean, the amount of struggles that went into that costume change itself that we finally like we're all able to get on stage at the end of it. It was kind of like, you know what? We deserve this Rock Your Socks Off award. This is ours. Um, I'm just gonna go down the list because I found it really fast. So Fairfield, their judges award was out of this world costume reveal, which it was out of this world. For sure, go check that out. Waltham was the school of the sickest solos. We had the "You Rock My Socks Off" award. Vibe had "You Turn Us Upside Down" award. Lowell had the no award. My bad, Lowell. I didn't mean to do that. I thought you guys had everyone got an award. They got a silver medal though in best male soloist. What is a creative show? Question mark. Tantascwa got. What does that mean? I have no clue. No, I don't remember. And then best instrument or best band soloist. Oh wait, the best song about food, the creepiest human award. What am I reading on some of these? No, it's not my business, but it makes me want to watch these shows back. What are they
Is
talking
there a
about?
live stream for that competition?
Like, what are they talking about? Creepiest human, and then what is a creative show? Question mark. Are
Yeah,
they roasting
kind of
them?
sus. I'm not gonna lie.
It's
You're
like,
like creepiest human award, and I'm like, uh, I, I, yeah.
what?
Okay.
Who got that award? Hold up. It was it was Pop Vox, and I actually saw Pop Vox. And when we got to Andover, all the hosts were like, "You need to go see Pop Vox because it's a once in a lifetime show." And we watched Pop Vox, and I will for sure say it was a once in a lifetime show. I don't remember I mean, the show was kind of creepy, but I mean, shoot, I mean, it deserved, I guess, the creepiest human award. So congratulations to Pop Vox in 2019.
And that's a group that no longer exists anymore. So,
Yeah. Hey, uh,
rip,
they're from
but
Massachusetts too. Oh man, I just remember everyone was like, "You got to go see Pop Vox. You just got to go see Pop Vox," and we did, and it was something I'll never forget.
there we go. All right. Well, I guess. Oh, anything else?
I I accidentally clicked onto our polls, and matchup number 3 right now just got a whole lot closer. 51% to 49% in favor of Jackson Academy. People are hopping on. People are hopping on as they should. So if you haven't, like if you weren't here for the beginning, hop on our polls on our website at the Show Choir Madness. So please go do that. Tell all your friends. Vote for what group you like the most, I guess, or groups that you find associations with that you like. So yeah,
Yeah,
some groups are pulling away and some are getting closer.
absolutely. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. And we're only like 7 hours into voting, and we still got 17 hours to go. So that's the crazy part as well, is that we may just see morning surges tomorrow as well that completely change the outcome of these things. As for the podcast, we will most definitely be back next week as well. Next week is kind of the last big nationwide week for Show Choir. We've got a couple of things going on this weekend, but next weekend is chock full of events. We've got the John Burroughs Music Showcase in California. We've got the Jenks Trochella, which I
That
think
might be the best comp. I don't know. That might be wait a new award this year. Comp name?
yeah, if I had a judges award to give for most creative competition name, I think it would be that, because it was just the Trojan Show Choir Invitational
Yeah.
last year, announced the Trochella. We've got the North Carolina Show Choir States. We also have the Fame National Show Choir Finals. And so while I think the finals only has about 5 or 6 groups this year, it'll still be very interesting to see how that all plays out. So with that being said, Ethan, thank you so much for hopping on tonight, even if your brain doesn't want to say coherent sentences. It's okay. We all have those days. We will be back next week. Everyone vote in Show Choir Madness. As always, if you're here right now but not at the beginning, the show is available on Spotify and on YouTube. So with that being said, have a great Show Choir weekend and see you next week.